Senator Anderson.
Thank you.
Senator Senator Christian Tavares Pinson, I recognize you.
Mr. President, I rise to make my contribution to the appropriations bill and to support it. But I must first draw attention to a troubling and persistent pattern. It has not gone unnoticed that in several quarters, the opposition has sought to lay claim to the very successes that they neither conceived nor executed, reaching even further to suggest that the ideas now delivering results somehow originated with them. Mr. President, the Jamaican people are discerning. They observe, they assess, and ultimately they decide. And they have decided decisively. If the opposition is so convinced of its effectiveness, then it must also accept the verdict of the people. Those Jamaican people have chosen to keep them exactly where they are for another term. Perhaps, Mr. President, that is where they are most comfortable. Commenting from the sidelines rather than carrying the weight of responsibility. But let me be clear, Mr. President. This administration has never claimed a monopoly on good ideas. The Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Andrew Holness, has said time and again, bring the ideas and we will implement what is in the best interest of the Jamaican people. That is not a sign of weakness, Mr. President. It is a mark of mature leadership. What is evident, Mr. President, is this. We are an administration that listens. We are an administration that acts. And more importantly, we are an administration that delivers. The distinction is not who speaks the loudest, Mr. President, but who produces results. And on that measure, there can be no ambiguity. The area that concerns me the most, and one which the opposition cannot lay claim to any of its successes, is that of our national security. Mr. President, when we speak about losing more than 1,500 Jamaicans to violence each year, the number can feel abstract until we give it shape. Imagine the National Stadium filled to its capacity of 35,000 people. Now imagine that every single person in those stands represents a life cut short by violence. At the rate we were losing our citizens, it would take just over 23 years to fill that stadium to capacity. Not with spectators, but with absence, families broken, communities diminished, and futures erased. This is not just a statistic. It is a slow, relentless emptying of a nation. Each year, Mr. President, adds another section, another stand, another row, until one day we are forced to confront the full scale at what has been taken from us. The question before us is not whether we can afford to act, but whether we can afford to continue counting lives in this way. Mr. President, in 2024, Jamaica recorded a 19% reduction in murders, following a 7% decline in 2023, bringing our homicide rate to 40.1 per 100,000. While still high, we are now outperforming some regional peers. A stark contrast to 2016, when Jamaica had the highest rate in the Caribbean at 50 per 100,000. Unlike much of the region, where homicide rates are currently surging past ours, we have reversed that trend, and now other countries are studying our approach to reducing violence. Notably, Mr. President, the 2024 Christmas season was the safest in over 20 years, and just 6 murders recorded during that Christmas week. Since 2024, the country has seen a sustained decline in murders, culminating in 47 murders in February 2025, the lowest monthly total in 25 years, and a 43% reduction compared to February 2024. Between February 2022 and February 2025, murders had declined by 55%. Additionally, major crimes as a whole, including murder, shootings, rape, robbery, and break-ins, have declined by 21%, reaching the lowest levels since disadvantaged data collected began in, Mr. President, rather. On that trajectory, in 2025, Jamaica achieved fewer than 1,000 murders in a single year for the first time since 2003. We are confident that this downward trajectory will persist, as these results stem from our deliberate planning, strategic investments, and targeted efforts to dismantle organized criminal gangs. Mr. President, let us recall that the drop in murders from 2009 to 2014, for which the opposition had sought to take credit, was a direct result of the states of emergency launched in May 2010 by the Jamaica Labour Party administration. These measures dismantled and scattered gangs and created a 21% drop in murders in 2011 and stabilization in 2012. This created a period of respite during which targeted police operations against gangs and violence producers resulted in 2014 recording the lowest numbers of murder in the previous 20 years. In mid-2014, the People's National Party introduced Unite for Change, an ostensible crime-fighting strategy that leaned heavily on social interventions. There was also a change of police commissioners, an apparent crime-fighting strategy. By 2015, murders began to rise again, and even the much-touted Unite for Change initiative was in full effect. The truth, Mr. President, is that the opposition shifted focus away from targeted operations against gangs and gangs leaders and allowed them space to recoup. The number of gangs in the country increased from under 200 in 2010 to approximately 350 by 2016. And we saw their impact between 2015 and 2017. That is when this administration decided to take decisive action, Mr. President. We recognize the emergency threat that organized criminal enterprises and violence producers pose to specific communities and to the country generally. We responded with zones of special operations and state of public emergencies to halt the persistent spiral of murder between 2015 and 2017. These measures were successful in taking back communities from gangs, displacing criminals, disrupting their operations, and limiting their space and opportunity to commit crimes. The government has recognized violence as a national emergency, and as such, we have made the largest sustained investment in national security in Jamaica's history. In 2015, before this administration took office, capital expenditure for national security was 2.67 billion. By 2018, it was increased to 12.7 billion. And in 2019, we made a record 19.5 billion investment to modernize our security apparatus. Mr. President, this sustained increase in our first term was necessary to compensate for years of underinvestment. These funds have strengthened our security forces through investments in equipment, vehicles, intelligence, forensics technology, and advanced training in cybersecurity, cybercrime, counter-trafficking, and financial intelligence. We have enhanced the operational capacity of the Jamaica Constabulary Force and the Jamaica Defense Force, rearming them with modern tools to dismantle criminal networks. In the case of the JCF, we have invested in building one of the most advanced law enforcement agencies in this hemisphere. To this end, significant progress is being made on the development of a C5 center, a state-of-the-art command and control facility. This cutting-edge center will seamlessly integrate, coordinate, and analyze real-time data from all available sources, including CCTV and body-worn cameras, supported by a robust back-end infrastructure. This development is a game changer for modern, efficient, and intelligence-driven policing and will have a major impact on crime. The government Project Rock Initiative, which was launched in 2019 to modernize the physical infrastructure of the JCF, has seen the refurbishment and construction of numerous police facilities across the island. Throughout the public sector compensation review, my government has ensured that our police officers are now in receipt of more reasonable salaries and pensions, befitting of their profession, and providing a better foundation for future negotiations. The resulting boost in morale cannot be overstated, and it has made a career in the JCF more appealing. Right. Mr. President, this administration in 2018 embarked on an ambitious plan to indigenously reform and recognize the Jamaican Constabulary Force under the direction of Commissioner Anthony Anderson. This included leadership development, recruitment and training of personnel, and the acquisition of material and advanced technology. It was never the intention of the government to rely solely on emergency measures. Rather, we used these measures to treat a crime situation that exceeded the existing capacity of regular law enforcement, while using the space created to build the long-term capacity of our security forces. 2022, Mr. President, we began to see the impact of these reforms and investments. The improved intelligence gathering, better investigative and crime-solving capabilities, and a return to more targeted and focused strategies against gangs and violence producers. During this period, several gangs and their leaders were indicted and prosecuted using anti-gang legislation. However, Mr. President, we note that most illicit weapons which fuel gang violence enter Jamaica through formal ports of entry. To improve our ability to secure this channel, we have been investing in advanced scanners and enhanced security protocols at Jamaica Customs. And the result is evidenced by major gun finds at our ports in recent times. I would like to acknowledge the Jamaica Customs for increased vigilance and commend the security forces and our partners for increased cooperation and intelligence sharing, which is yielding great results. Every weapon and ammunition kept off our streets is potentially a life saved. Additionally, we are finalizing the Customs Mutual Assistance Agreement with the United States, which will enable even greater intelligence sharing to strengthen port security and protect our national and economic interests. Mr. President, data and intelligence confirm that Jamaica's violence is driven by organized criminal enterprises. These we call gangs, not socio-economic factors like poverty or unemployment, as the opposition would like us to believe. More than 70% of murders in Jamaica are directly related to gangs. Today, we can say that year to date, murders are at their lowest level in 25 years. Had we had the full support of the opposition in the use of these emergency measures previously spoken about, the reduction in murders would have been even greater, Mr. President. Let me be clear. The People's National Party under its current leadership can take no credit for the reduction of murders in Jamaica. They have done everything possible to obstruct this government's efforts to fight crime. The figures, Mr. President, speak with unmistakable clarity and they speak with force. The number of murders recorded in Jamaica declined from 1,147 in 2024 to 673 in 2025. Let that soak in, Mr. President. That is a 43% reduction in a single year. That is not marginal progress, not incremental change. That is a decisive break from the past. It is also the first time in 31 years that Jamaica's murder toll has fell below 700. And the momentum has not slowed, Mr. President. Indeed, it has strengthened. Between January 1 and March 14, 2026, murders declined by a further 29.4% compared to the same period last year. Mr. President, this is not a chance. This is not coincidence. This is the unmistakable outcome of sustained intelligence-led security operations, reinforced by deliberate legislative reform and the steady strengthening of our national security institutions. It is evident that Jamaica is no longer reacting to crime. We are systematically dismantling it. This progress has been enabled by strategic use of emergency measures, measures that created the time and space for our security forces to build capacity while simultaneously containing and reducing a growing threat. And today, Mr. President, the results are visible to every Jamaican. The capability of the state now exceeds that of organized criminal elements. Mr. President, the state must always hold the advantage, and we have ensured it does. We have invested in superior intelligence, strong communications, enhanced mobility, and advanced tactical capability. But let me be equally clear. Strength without principle is not security. We have insisted that these capabilities are exercised within the rule of law, with respect for human rights, compassion for victims, and protection for the most vulnerable among us. A critical pillar of this success has been the all-out assault on gangs, Mr. President, led by the Anti-Gang Task Force. Let us not romanticize or minimize that threat. Gangs are the main source of violent crime in Jamaica. They occupy communities, traffic narcotics, extort the vulnerable, and perpetrate violence without hesitation. Dismantling them is not merely a policing objective. It is a national security imperative. Mr. President, as we look ahead, we are not easing our efforts. We are expanding them. We heard through his contribution, the Prime Minister indicate that in the coming financial year, the Jamaica Defence Force will advance the establishment of the Camp Warika Forward Operating Base, spanning approximately 100 acres at an estimated cost of $5 billion. This is not just an infrastructure project. It is a strategic investment in territorial dominance, enhanced communication, and real-time sustainable awareness across the Ligani Plains. Mr. President, this budget represents something deeper than allocation. It represents transition. A transition from reactive crisis management to persistent readiness. From temporary suppression to sustained reduction. From fragmented oversight to full spectrum domain awareness. Mr. President, we must also confront a deeper truth. Gang violence, as grave as it is, represents only one dimension of the challenge. The other form of violence, quieter, often hidden, but equally destructive. Domestic violence, child abuse, violence in our schools and institutions. These are not problems that can be solved by force alone. They are rooted in behavior, in culture, in long-standing social patterns, and they require a broader, more deliberate response. It is precisely this understanding that led this government to take the deliberate step of renaming the ministry as the Ministry of National Security and Peace. That change is not cosmetic, it is philosophical. It signals clearly that our mission is not only to suppress crime, but to actively build and sustain peace across our society. But because, Mr. President, true security is not merely the absence of violence, it is the presence of stability, dignity, and hope. And I can say without fear of contradiction that this is the Jamaica we are building. Yet even as we celebrate this progress, it would be remiss of me not to note that we are being confronted with a troubling and persistent reality. The alarming number of lives lost on our roads. It is deeply distressing to me that while we have managed to reduce certain forms of violence, road fatalities continue to climb. Far too many of our citizens claim, year after year. These are not just statistics, Mr. President. They are mothers, fathers, children, and friends whose lives are cut short, often due to preventable circumstances. We must now bring the same level of urgency, coordination, and national resolve to road safety as we have to crime fighting, because the loss of life in any form is a burden this country cannot afford to carry. Mr. President, we will continue to invest in the security forces and support the transformation of the Jamaican Constabulary Force into a modern, professional, and technology-driven organization. We will continue to target gangs, which account for over 70% of murders in this country. If we focus on eliminating gangs, we can reduce our murder rate to below the regional average of 15 per 100,000. I am pleased to learn that police intelligence now estimate that there are fewer than 100 active gangs in Jamaica since the beginning of 2025, down from a high of 350 in 2016. Many have been dismantled or have gone dormant, or they are laying low because they know they are being relentlessly pursued by our security forces. In closing, Mr. President, I wish to extend, on behalf of a grateful nation, my deepest appreciation to the men and women of our security forces. Your service is not ordinary. It is marked by courage, sacrifice, and an unyielding commitment to the safety of every Jamaican. You stand on the front lines, often unseen and too often unthanked, yet you remain resolute. I encourage you, do not relent, do not waver, do not lose heart. The work you are doing is bearing fruit. The progress we now witness across Jamaica is a direct reflection of your discipline, your professionalism, and your bravery. Know this, your country sees you, your country values you, your country depends on you. Stand with your duty, firm in your duty, uphold the honor of your service, and continue to press forward with integrity and purpose. For in your hands rests not only the enforcement of law, but the preservation of peace, the protection of life, and the securing of Jamaica's